Members of the Tohono O Odham Nation rallied outside the Tucson Federal Building, demanding that the U.S. Congress rescind funding for the border wall. They say the wall would damage some of the most spectacular ecosystems in Arizona.
And us as Tohono O Odham, we were forced off our lands because of a federal entity that continues to disrupt our way of life.
One affected area is the sacred Quito Springs in Arizona's Organ Pipe Cactus National Monument. Activists say Border Patrol is using sacred spring water to mix concrete for the wall and flattening an area of the monument at least 30 yards right next to the wall.
When you think about the lands that we've tried to protect, when you think about the waterways that we've tried to protect, when you think about the animals that we've tried to protect, you understand that this is not just a wall that's being built, but this is an attack on our way of life.
Demonstrators say the fauna and flora of the area are being devastated by the wall development. Lakin Jordal from the Center of Biological Diversity was one of the organizers of the rally.
Yeah, so especially in the desert, it's so important that animals are able to migrate freely. Animals need to move through the landscape to find food, to find water, and this wall will cut right through the heart of the best preserved Sonoran desert habitat in the world. So we're talking about cutting a wildlife corridor in two. And that has catastrophic consequences and leads to extinction of many species.
Jordal says that the water in this part of the country is sacred and that the Border Patrol's actions should be illegal.
It is absolutely blasphemous that they are sucking up precious desert groundwater in order to mix concrete for the border wall. If any of the normal environmental laws were in place, this would be illegal. It's insane to suck up water to build a border wall in the desert. Water is our most precious natural resource. Essentially, Border Patrol has waived every relevant law to rush this construction through an obscure and little-known provision in the Real ID Act. The Center and other organizations are challenging this in court, but while our lawsuits are working their way through the courts, Border Patrol is doing an immense amount of irreversible damage.
Attending the rally was the Tohono O Odham Nation's newly elected chairman, Ned Norris Jr., who had recently surveyed the Quito area.
What I am very concerned about is the fact that there are some very sacred sites to my people, and there are some very old graves in that area, that if this border wall at some point reaches that area, it's going to desecrate. It's going to desecrate those graveyards. It's going to desecrate the Quito Springs and that area, which is very significant to my ancestry, the Hohokam.
Norris Jr. points out that the nation has no real control over the Border Patrol's actions, despite the fact that the federal government has an arrangement establishing the Tohono O Odham Nation's control of the area.
What our tribal council has really tried to do, and what I think they've accomplished, is establish a fairly decent working relationship with the Border Patrol. My tribe is not a treaty tribe. My tribe was created by an executive order of the President of the United States. And so we have to protect the fact that we don't have a treaty, but we have an executive order that allows us to be established and allows us where we're at today.
David Garcia, a former member of the Tohono O Odham Nation's council, says there's a precedent for the government's refusal to honor land deals.
You remember that President Trump was campaigning and actually talking about privatizing reservations. And so there's been a history in terms of how the federal government or the United States government has actually done away with federally recognized tribes and even done away with federal recognition in terms of land.
Garcia, however, sees potential in the new generation of the tribal nation's leaders.
In my opinion, they've taken a back seat, and I think with the young people, our tribal members, young people who have become very progressive, are really starting to push our tribal government to exactly push the so-called being sovereign and being self-determination and being an autonomous government.
Border Patrol have a very, very prominent presence, and they police our every move. They watch us, and it took me a long time as a 24-year-old woman to realize that not everybody lives like this. Not everybody has to grow up in a state like this where you're constantly under surveillance, and that's not okay. And so when you look into communities and hear stories from different people, everyone has a story about a negative interaction with Border Patrol. And it can be as little as being harassed, and it can be as big as brutalization.
A ruler who lacks understanding makes a great oppressor. Oppressors act from a position of fear. They're fear-based. They don't know who they are truly. They can only see what's materialistic, and they feed off of the materialistic. That's not the natural, that's not healthy. So we pray for our president because it's not humane, it's not indigenous, it's not spiritually aligned. You know, I can say I pity him. You know, he may in his position feel as if indigenous people are the ones to be pitied. But regardless, he's a politician. Politicians, they can't make promises. They can speak promises, but they can't fully live out those promises.
Stay with The Real News for more on the issue.
Thanks a lot for watching. Appreciate it. But do us one more solemn favor. Hit the subscribe button below. You know you want to. Stay up on the videos.